In the heart of Qingzhou City, within the silent council hall of the Heavenly Origin Divine General Mansion, a storm brews not of thunder, but of dread. Noble ladies, once poised and serene, now clutch the fragile remnants of their husbands' old alliances, their eyes fixed on the ancient token that has arrived, the Eight Directions Order, a sign of peril so grave it pierces through time and distance. The message speaks of Liangzhou engulfed in chaos, besieged by entities from the Great Void Realm. Gao Qingqing's tears fall unbidden, haunted by memories of 20 years past, when another son of the divine generals was lost under a sky set ablaze by war. Now, the same darkness rises again, and her beloved stands at the center of it, bound by duty, unable to retreat. As tension crackles like lightning in the room, the truth lands heavier than any blade. This is not a war to save a city, or even a people, but to uphold a legacy. A legacy that commands them to protect the world, even if it cannot save those who suffer. This was the cursed legacy that ran through the veins of the Li bloodline. Love, once innocent, turned into chains of anguish the moment she stepped into the Divine General Mansion. Gao Qingqing trembled on her seat, her strength drained by the crushing truth. The women around her remained silent each, had once wept like her, their gazes distant, haunted by the memory of warriors lost. Do they not fear being swept away when the true guardians descend? Lu Wanqing's voice cut through the silence, her doubt lingering in the air. I must leave for Liangzhou, declared Li Muxiu. But He Jianlan shook her head, her tone firm. Tiangong's decree was not a call for aid, but a warning. You must not leave Qingzhou. Shock widened Qingqing's eyes as Muxiu realized the hidden threat. If the enemy dares to strike so brazenly, then another lies in wait, perhaps, a lord of the Void Realm, or worse. He Jianlan's voice dropped into grim finality. The moment you leave, they descend. Their target is us, the Divine General Mansion itself. A cold silence followed. Even with mighty barriers and ancient arrays, a 2-day absence would leave them vulnerable. Qingqing's voice quivered. So Liangzhou is left to crumble. Are we to simply watch it vanish? But Jianlin's reply held a quiet strength. Fear not yet. Tiangong's message spreads beyond us. The Li family's tribulation was a curse woven into their very bloodline. Childhood friends who had blossomed into lovers never anticipated the weight of fate, but after marrying into the Li family, Gao Qingqing felt the full sting of the sorrow carried by the family's sons. She sat trembling, her strength faltering as she tried to steady herself, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The silence around her felt oppressive, as other women in the room shared her grief, their thoughts drifting to their own lost husbands, their eyes filled with unspoken sadness. Lady Lu Wanqing's voice broke the stillness, questioning the bravery of those who dared to defy their fate. Yet, Li Muxi's response was a call to action, to move toward Liangzhou. But even he was restrained by orders that kept him bound to Qingzhou, for the true threat lay not just in the western front, but within their very midst. The demons, bold and relentless, might not be deterred by the absence of reinforcements. Instead, they feared a greater power lurking in the shadows of Qingzhou. Li Muxiu realized that sending aid to Liangzhou could leave Qingzhou vulnerable, and the very heart of their defenses, the Divine General Mansion, could be targeted. Gao Qingqing was horrified by the news, believing she had been summoned to aid, only to find the cruel truth. There was no aid, only a call to prepare for a confrontation, unlike any before. The weight of despair pressed down on her. Yet he, Jianlan, with a calm demeanor, reminded them that even in these darkest moments, there was hope. Orders had been passed on, and reinforcements were coming. Not from one, but from many, to hold the line and resist the darkness closing in. On a tranquil lotus platform, the infinite Buddha Lord radiated calm wisdom as golden symbols flickered in his eyes. His voice echoed with divine knowledge as he spoke of an impending catastrophe tied to the karmic forces long contained by the Dayu divine dynasty. This disaster, born of greed, lust, and anger, was an inevitable consequence of a cycle set into motion long ago. He spoke of a looming calamity, one that required a careful, calculated approach. His command was clear. The Bodhisattva Miao Shan must lead the charge to quell the demons wreaking havoc in Liangzhou. Her calm resolve mirrored the Buddha's words. Rescuing the world was not just about alleviating suffering, but embracing it to transform others. As Miao Shan set forth, her path illuminated by the ethereal glow of the Eight Directions Order flag, chaos erupted in Liangzhou. The once impregnable defense line crumbled as the demon forces, emboldened by the shattered golden array, surged forward with relentless fury. The battle for humanity's survival had entered a new, desperate phase zone where hope seemed as fragile as the flickering light in the distance. With a casual wave of his hand, a colossal vine whip lashed out, effortlessly smothering the blazing solar force, charging toward him like extinguishing a flickering ember before the full moon. "You Xuan!" A voice roared, as Li Tiangang's eyes burned with fury, divine flames erupting from his blade. Marshal! Li Fu stepped forward, urging retreat, even as soldiers around him readied themselves for the inevitable clash. Their hearts were weak, their cultivation shallow, but their resolve was iron for soldiers. Retreat was never an option. The elder of the Vine clan, seeking redemption for his earlier lapse, surged ahead, palm raised, releasing a dark purple imprint woven from withered vines, pulsing with Grandmaster intent. The sky cracked open as golden formations rose Tiger's might. Flood dragons' wrath unleashing thunderous roars and radiant light. Yet, the mark tore through them, crushing their defiance into a red mist beneath a torrent of withering force. A demon king's might unstoppable, overwhelming, divine. Li Tiangang staggered, fists clenched, his breath shallow. He had commanded 1,000 battles with steel nerves, but now even he felt the weight of despair creeping in. Yet amidst the chaos, his blade stayed firm. Retreat was not failure, it was strategy. They would fall back, join forces with the Western defenders, and anchor themselves on the secondary line. With a swift motion, the Vine Demon Elder unleashed a massive strike, effortlessly quelling the fiery might of the sun. It was as simple as swatting a fleeting firefly. In the grand cosmic order, how could such a creature compete with the brilliance of the moon? As the soldiers around him scrambled in desperation, the divine power of their leader flared up, yet the threat before them was relentless. The Elder, a demon of unimaginable strength, cleaved through their forces without mercy, pressing forward like an unstoppable storm. Their combined might, a carefully crafted formation, shattered in an instant as the soldiers were swallowed by the overwhelming power of the Demon King. On this battlefield, hope seemed all but lost. But amidst the chaos, one soldier, resolute, knew the only way to survive was not through reckless bravery, but by retreating, fortifying, and waiting for reinforcements. The fate of this war hinged not on the individual strength of one, but on the unity of many. The true challenge lay in the belief that even in the darkest moments, there was a path forward, a chance to rise again with the help of allies, and a promise that the gentry, united, would become a force unlike any other. The force, once fragmented and weak, now holds an immense power when united, one capable of shaking even the mightiest of armies. Li Tiangang, with the weight of millions in Liangzhou on his shoulders, clenched his teeth, his eyes aflame with fury as the 10 demon kings drew closer. Without hesitation, he turned to flee, knowing military law could not be defied. His emotions screamed for vengeance, but reason demanded retreat. There was no other way to protect Liangzhou from falling into enemy hands. Tiangang, farewell, came the soft whisper from Li Fu, his old friend, as he watched him escape. The years of brotherhood between them flashed in Li Tiangang's mind, and for a moment, his heart broke. The pain of seeing his childhood companion's end was overwhelming, yet the mission was clear. He had to live to protect the future. Li Fu's last words echoed in his mind, urging him to reconcile with his son, who was worthy of his pride. But before they could share another moment, the Vine Demon Elder descended, crushing Li Fu's body and soul. Li Tiangang, already far from the scene, felt his rage surge as he ordered his troops to hold the line and give everything to protect the retreat. The battlefield, filled with the clash of wills and spirits, saw warriors who embraced their fate, charging into the demon tide with relentless resolve. There was no hesitation, no fear, only the unstoppable execution of duty as they burned with purpose. The war raged on, a battle between life and death, light and shadow, where each moment brought the soldiers closer to their final sacrifice. A sudden twist of her wrist summoned a vortex of demonic chi, coalescing into a colossal shadow beast of great and luminous, its roar echoing as it struck down toward Li Tiangang. With a furious cry, he swung the Xingtian blade, its brilliance tearing toward the heavens, only to be shattered by the beast's terrifying form, half serpent, half lion, cloaked in scales and divine light. Just as the shadow clawed down to overwhelm him, a sudden sword wind cleaved the air, severing the shadow's claws in an instant. In a flash, Li Tiangang vanished, reappearing miles away. The woman's gaze shifted, narrowing at a new figure ragged, hidden beneath a bamboo hat, a nameless wanderer. But that sword in his grasp shimmered like the moon, impossible to look away from, as though turning your gaze would mean being cut down. Her pupils flared as recognition struck. He was the great desert sword saint. Of the 3 legendary sword saints, his was the most elusive, vanishing into legend. Now here, his calm voice questioned her choice to join the fray after centuries in hiding. Her voice sharpened in return, blaming an empire too greedy, too grasping, for forcing their hand. But his retort cut deeper than any sword. What she sought was not balance, but conquest. And when he revealed that Liangzhou, the land she dared to touch, was once his own birthplace, her confidence faltered. Forgotten by time, yet now awakened his sword was no longer just legend. It had returned. With a sudden twist of her palm, a torrent of demonic chi gathered, forming into a massive shadow of great yin luminous that roared as it descended upon Li Tiangang. The blade in his hand gleamed with the intensity of 1,000 suns as he swung it, cutting through the heavens. However, the ferocious shadow, a terrifying blend of mythic creatures, shattered the blade's light and descended with a crushing palm. Just as Li Tiangang faced imminent doom, a blazing sword wind swept through, severing the shadow's claws. In a blink, he was transported miles away. Miss Yin, her gaze sharp as ever, turned to find a mysterious figure, a seemingly inconspicuous traveler in tattered clothes holding a radiant sword. The sword, gleaming like the moon, captivated all who looked upon it, as if it could slice through the very air. Realizing who stood before her, Miss Yin's expression shifted to one of fury. "Are you the Great Desert Sword Saint?" she demanded. The Sword Saint, indifferent as ever, met her gaze and spoke, questioning why she was drawn into this conflict after 1,000 years of hiding. Miss Yin, her fury mounting, responded with the truth of the great upheaval, condemning the Dayu Divine Dynasty for their insatiable expansion. The Sword Saint, cool and unwavering, suggested that her true desires were much greater than what she let on. Their tense exchange hinted at a deeper, personal connection to the land, as Miss Yin revealed that she hailed from Liangzhou, a place linked to the Sword Saint's own origins. A battle of ideologies loomed large, with each of them carrying the weight of history and personal legacy. In the distant land of Liangzhou, far from the Great Desert, a figure returns to protect his homeland. Despite his extraordinary achievements, the Great Desert Sword Saint remains deeply connected to where he grew up, making a difficult decision to face the chaos of war. With the sky shattered by battles between sword energy and dark, mysterious forces, the tension between light and shadow escalate. As military camps prepare for battle against the advancing demon hordes, Li Xuanli remains vigilant, knowing the threats from the Demon King's forces are ever looming. With his family and the fate of the realm hanging in the balance, Li Xuanli's daughter, Li Wushuang, insists on staying to fight despite the danger. Amidst the growing storm, the intensity of the conflict rages, leaving both physical and emotional scars on those who stand against the approaching tide of darkness. A personal journey intertwined with the fate of humanity, the battle grows fiercer, and Li Hao's own inner turmoil and growth are tested. As armies prepare for the inevitable clash, the challenge ahead is more than just a fight for survival, it's a battle for the soul of the realm. Amidst the tension of the battlefield, Li Wushuang shared a moment of lightheartedness with her father, Li Xuanli, despite the looming storm of war. As the vast army of demons neared, Li Wushuang stood resolute, unwilling to flee like her father suggested. "Members of the Li family do not shrink from battle," she declared, her determination mirroring the ancestral strength she carried. Her father, ever pragmatic, urged her to leave, but a fleeting thought made her pause, her expression shifting in response to an overwhelming feeling. Then, the moment arrived, a demon horde broke into the city's defenses, triggering an explosive array that shook the battlefield. The calm before the storm was shattered by the arrival of 3 formidable demon kings hidden within the chaos. Their monstrous power was enough to send a wave of shock through the ranks. In that instant, the battlefield became a place where not only physical might, but also the resolve of the Li family would be tested. The fight was no longer just about strategy, it was a fight for survival and for honor. Li Wushuang's heart raced as she watched the 3 demon kings in the sky, each strike against the array, sending shockwaves through her body. She knew their power was immense, but with only one ally by her side, could anyone truly stop them? Even her desperate call for reinforcements seemed futile as the array trembled under the relentless barrage. Meanwhile, Li Xuanli led his forces into the fray, determined to defend the realm despite the odds. Far to the south, Li Hao, fresh from his long journey, had returned to Heavenly Gate Pass just in time for the storm to escalate. The city bustled with life, but Li Hao's mind was set on the impending battle. As he stopped at a tea stall, savoring familiar flavors, his mind was sharp with the memories of past struggles. It was clear the forces of darkness were closing in, and only by facing them head-on could he protect everything he held dear. The story now turned towards an explosive clash, where power, legacy, and the weight of leadership all collided in a breathtaking saga of war and growth. At a quiet tea stall, the hum of conversation is pierced by the bold curiosity of nearby youths, their eyes lighting up upon hearing Li Hao speak. "Brother, do you live here? Did you just arrive, or are you with the military?" One blurts, brimming with excitement. Another eagerly asks, "Have you seen the marshal?" The tea vendor, aged and serene, offers a cryptic smile. The road may be long, but even a slow journey is its own scenery. Li Hao, momentarily distracted, studies the vendor with narrowed eyes but shakes off his suspicion coincidences, after all, are common. He finishes his meal and politely signals his departure. Turning to the impulsive group, he warns with calm confidence, "This place isn't as safe as it seems. You might want to explore elsewhere." Offended yet intrigued, the youths are about to retort until Li Hao rises into the air, disappearing into the sky. Flight. A manifestation of mastery he's at the 15 Li realm. Their bravado evaporates into awe, replaced by a sudden burst of ambition. "This city truly gathers the strongest," one mutters. "Let's hurry and join them," another says, excitement igniting like wildfire. The old vendor chuckles softly. "Young spirits, always chasing the wind." Meanwhile, Li Hao returns silently to the fortified city. Guards snap to attention as he passes, offering respectful salutes, which he answers with a gentle wave. Within the courtyard, Xianxia halts her cultivation, her eyes opening with warmth and reverence the moment she senses his return. The young men of the table exchange surprised glances as they overheard Li Hao, one of them eagerly asking, "Brother, do you live here? Did you just buy a place or join the army?" Another youth chimed in, "Have you met Marshal Haoshen?" The tea stall vendor with a knowing smile added, "The road is long, even if it's hard, just take it slowly. As long as you reach your destination, slow progress is part of the journey." Li Hao, sensing the oddity in the situation, glanced at the vendor, but decided it was just his imagination. He stood, telling the vendor he would be leaving before turning to the youths with a calm smile. "This area can be dangerous. You might want to head somewhere safer to have fun." At first, the youths were confused, but then, to their astonishment, Li Hao took flight, an unmistakable sign of the 15 Li realm. The youths fell silent, stunned by his power. Realizing they were in the presence of someone extraordinary, they became excited. The word spread that Xianxia city was full of prodigies. They quickly finished their meal, ready to follow in Li Hao's footsteps. The vendor, watching their eager actions, just shook his head with a smile. Meanwhile, Li Hao returned quietly to Xianxia city and entered the walled courtyard. The grandmasters on patrol immediately saluted him, and he waved them off. Xianxia, practicing in the courtyard, saw him and rushed over, her eyes bright with recognition. The young master returns, his presence stirring the air. "Has anything important happened?" he inquires, his gaze sharp. Xianxia responds, "Nothing here, but earlier today, Elder Hongzhuang received a military report. I'm unsure of the details." As Li Hao reflects on the unusual alertness of the city's soldiers, a wave of unease washes over him. "Find me clean clothes," he orders, preparing to seek answers. With his divine soul sweeping through the city, he quickly locates Li Hongzhuang, who, in the midst of her sword training, notices his arrival. "You're back, Hauer? It's only been a few days since you left." Li Hao settles down and without hesitation asks, "I heard about the military report. There seems to be something off with the soldiers. What's going on?" Li Hongzhuang's expression hardens as she speaks. "The demons, feigning retreat, are now gathering at the western border, preparing to strike. This intelligence was delivered urgently this morning. We must remain vigilant." The tension in the room thickens as Li Hao absorbs the news, understanding the potential threat. The demons' movements are a forewarning, and though the situation seems under control for now, the storm looms large. "We must watch closely." Li Hao reflects, knowing the dangers could soon breach the gates once more. The calm before the storm is deceiving, and as the forces move closer, the question remains, will they be ready to confront the tide of darkness? Miss Yin's eyes turned to ice as she struck without warning, her fury unleashed. The great desert sword saint, standing beside Li Tiangang, urged him to leave, knowing that his presence was vital elsewhere. Li Tiangang, his senses returning, expressed his gratitude and hastily retreated, but Miss Yin was not about to let him go so easily. With a fierce command, she sent her demon kings to chase him down while she faced the sword saint alone. The air crackled as the great desert sword saint drew his line, daring anyone to cross it, but missed. Yin was not one to be intimidated. She revealed her true form, a mighty lion serpent shadow, and summoned a deadly black moon to strike him down. The two clashed in a spectacular battle, the ground beneath them shaking with every strike. Yet, the sword saint stood unwavering, even as other demon kings attempted to pursue Li Tiangang. Undeterred, he vowed to clear them from his path. This battle, though fierce, was also an opportunity one to replenish his supplies and prove that his strength came not just from the battlefield, but from his self-reliance and resourcefulness. Li Hao had yet to repay her for the favor or the money owed, but the time for that would come later. If the scouts fail to find any traces of demons, it could mean that the demons have focused their forces on the western frontier, Li Hongzhuang stated with a calm, calculating demeanor. Then, we will scout the situation there, she continued. However, it's possible the demons have scattered, with their main force not yet heading our way. I'll keep sending scouts to gather information. Her vigilance was unwavering, The demon army's speed was notorious, capable of crossing vast distances in a day. With the great demons as vanguards, they could easily strike a city ahead of their main forces in a matter of hours. Li Hao agreed with her approach, nodding in acknowledgement. "Let me know if there's any news," he added, preparing to take his leave. Before he could go, Li Hongzhuang turned to him, her brow furrowing with a hint of curiosity. "You returned from Yangzhou so quickly. Didn't you thoroughly explore Tianji Tower, or did the head refuse to let you see more?" "No, he let me look as much as I wanted," Li Hao replied with a smile. "Then why return so soon?" Li Hongzhuang asked, surprised. "Because I finished," he said with a grin. "I've been on the road too long and haven't had a proper bath. I'll freshen up first." She raised an eyebrow in disbelief, unsure if he had rushed back just for a bath. But before she could inquire further, Li Hao had already vanished from sight. "This guy," Li Hongzhuang muttered, shaking her head with a smile. It was curious, she thought, how someone so carefree could achieve such greatness. She's talent outshone the most disciplined of warriors. Back at his courtyard, Li Hao quickly washed and changed into fresh clothes. He sent a message to Feng, stationed nearby, then realized with a start that his return had been so hurried he had forgotten to bring back any local specialties from Yangzhou. Yet, his mind lingered on the more pressing matter of the threat of a demon invasion at Heavenly Gate Pass. If the demons had indeed advanced toward the western frontier, it was likely that they had learned of his departure, but perhaps they hesitated, knowing that taking Heavenly Gate Pass now might only lead to their retreat once he returned. Li Hao was fully aware of the demons' keen interest in his battle flags, especially those of Tianji Palace. With the sight of Xianxia City's fortified walls still standing strong, the demons' boldness in advancing was undeniably courageous. Yet, Li Hao knew that this would only mark the beginning of greater challenges. The demon forces were massing for a full-scale strike on Liangzhou, signaling their true intentions. It was now crucial for him to defend Heavenly Gate Pass at all costs. Amid the brewing chaos, he recognized the moment had come to act decisively. He summoned the young chess master, Xu Zhuyuan, whose strategic mind had proven invaluable before. Despite Shu's advanced age and frail health, his mind remained sharp, and the respect shown by Ren Xianxia as she invited him revealed the seriousness of the mission. The chess master, once a prominent figure, had now retired from his martial arts pursuits, relying on his reputation and elixirs for longevity. His humble acceptance of Li Hao's invitation, accompanied by gold, illustrated the respect that transcended his physical state. As the two approached the small bamboo courtyard, the dignified gesture towards the seemingly ordinary man stirred whispers among the onlookers, revealing the chess master's humble yet significant place in this unfolding drama. As Xu Zhuyan entered the courtyard, Li Hao promptly rose to greet him, expressing concern for his senior's well-being. However, Xu Zhuyuan, known as the Little Chess Sage, humbly dismissed the compliment, reminding Li Hao of the martial arts foundation that governed their world. In an era where martial prowess reigned supreme, the art of chess Tao was but a trivial pursuit. Li Hao, undeterred, invited his senior to sit and enjoy tea, encouraging a friendly game of chess. Despite his usual formality, Xu Zhuyuan was soon engrossed in the game, each move reflecting his immense skill. Li Hao, though experienced, found himself barely victorious as Xu Zhuyuan's strategic brilliance shone through. They settled into a quiet rhythm, yet the calm was shattered by a sudden, jarring shout, which startled Xu Zhuyan, causing him to drop his piece and disrupt the board. The game's tranquility was broken, but it was clear that the calm before the storm mirrored the fragile peace in their tumultuous world. A massive, shadowy palm came crashing down, with golden light flashing violently from the array, the divine runes spinning desperately in defense. Yet, it was all in vain as the force shattered the array with a deafening impact. The demon palm thundered onward, breaking the foundational stones of the outer defenses. As the array collapsed, a breach was torn open, and demons surged through like an unstoppable tide, led by the great Demon King. The soldiers of Swan Camp, overwhelmed, fell to the ground in defeat. Amid the chaos, Li Wushuang witnessed her father, Li Xuanli, thrown back, badly injured and barely able to stand. She rushed to help him, his body marked by dents in his battle armor, proof of the brutal damage sustained. He ordered a retreat, his voice tinged with urgency, but his determination remained unshaken. The generals rallied to cover their retreat, the battlefield now a deadly sea of combat, as millions of soldiers clashed with demons in a desperate struggle for survival. Yet, in the midst of this madness, far from the front lines, Li Hao was interrupted by a military report that threatened to derail his moment of focus. Li Hongzhuang entered, her armor gleaming red from the front lines, asking if something had gone terribly wrong in the western regions. Tensions ran high, the fate of the land hanging in the balance as war raged on. Li Hao's eyes narrowed as he quickly scanned the military report. "The western regions have fallen, led by a demon king," he muttered. His mind raced. How had they fallen so quickly? Just the night before, their sentinels had detected demons gathering, and now, a mere half-day later, the demons had launched an all-out attack. Though the western regions had the protection of an array, it was no match for 3 demon kings. Li Hao's brow furrowed. He wasn't surprised by the appearance of these fearsome enemies, but the absence of a guardian from the Four Stands realm left him unsettled. Was the western defense truly so weak? As Li Hao pondered, his sister, Li Hongzhuang, anxiously inquired about their 5th brother's safety, her mind racing with thoughts of the family's past losses. Li Hao reassured her that he was safe for now, but the situation remained dire. Instead of reinforcements, their 5th brother had warned them to stay cautious and watch out for the Demon Kings, retreating to a second line of defense. Just as they discussed their next move, a soldier arrived with urgent news the scouting sentinel had been attacked and demons had now breached the area. Both Li Hao and Li Hongzhuang exchanged worried glances. The demons were advancing, and the western regions were in chaos. The stakes had never been higher. In the heat of battle, Li Hao stands firm, confronting the overwhelming threat of demonic forces. As his allies strategize, Li Hao calmly decides on a course of action that could tip the scales. He entrusts his battle flag, a potent symbol of his power, to Li Hongzhuang and Li He, both capable of moving swiftly across the land. This flag contains a portion of Li Hao's spiritual might, enough to challenge even the strongest foes. However, with demons closing in, Li Hao resolves to stay behind, guarding the Heavenly Gate Pass and ensuring his family's safety. The stakes are high, and as his allies prepare for their own missions, Li Hao's unyielding resolve shines through. Yet, even with his strength, the journey ahead is fraught with danger. As Li Hongzhuang and Li He wrestle with their own decisions, the weight of leadership becomes evident, revealing not just the external battles, but the internal struggle of Li Hao and his allies as they navigate their duties and inner conflicts. Li Hongzhuang made a swift decision, insisting that she could travel alone, her speed far surpassing the necessity of anyone else accompanying her. With a swift motion, Li Hao released his divine soul, gathering 50 battle flags from outside the city. These flags, now stacked high, were swiftly enveloped in Li Hongzhuang's controlling power. With a final glance at Li Hao, she soared into the sky, her pace a blur as she pushed herself to her limits. The journey ahead was fraught with immense distance and even greater exhaustion, yet she would not let that hinder her resolve. While Li Hongzhuang rushed forward, Li Hao took charge of the city's defenses, locking down the area, warning of the impending danger, and sending out signals to all wandering martial artists. He also began to consider the broader implications of the demon invasion, contemplating how other fronts would react should they be overrun. His mind flickered briefly toward the eastern frontier, a place he had long neglected, but the north seemed even further out of reach. Amidst all the chaos, Li Hao remained focused, tightening the city's defense lines, understanding that every decision he made could change the course of the war. The weight of his responsibility grew heavier by the day, and yet, he knew he had to hold steady against the approaching storm. With chaos looming, the royal troops are expected to arrive soon. As long as the second line of defense holds, it may suffice. However, with Demon Kings on the western front, other forces may appear elsewhere. As defense lines contract, the demons will unite, intensifying the pressure. Li Hao, sensing the gravity of the situation, orders reinforcements to the western defense line. With the help of a Grandmaster and his battle flags, he hopes to tip the scales in humanity's favor. As scouts keep watch for enemy movements, Li Hao reflects on the enemy's persistence. If Xianxia Palace still dares to attack, they must have powerful forces at their disposal. Despite the growing threat, Li Hao remains unfazed, reassuring his senior that Heavenly Gate Pass will withstand. As the battlefield approaches, demons surge forward, led by formidable Immortal Realm great demons, their relentless advance bringing them closer to their goal. With the odds stacked against them, Li Hao stands firm, determined to protect humanity, but the path ahead will test not just his strength, but his very spirit. The boy who dared to challenge the mighty Heavenly Gate Pass and desecrate sacred ground so long, can he remain unshaken now? The great demons, once repelled from their own lairs, plot their next move, biding their time for a chance to strike while their leader remains absent. They discuss their strategy, planning to take advantage of the boy's absence, but their ambitions are met with uncertainty. The movement of over 50,000 demons, including 2 from the Immortal Realm, catches the attention of Li Hao and his forces. His keen mind quickly assesses the situation, realizing that the Demon King would not launch a full-scale attack with such a small force. The tension rises as both sides prepare for what promises to be a decisive clash, but Li Hao, ever the strategist, knows the true threat lies not just in numbers, but in the unseen forces manipulating them. A battle looms, but the real challenge is one of willpower, with each side poised for a conflict that will define the future. Li Hao's eyes narrowed as he pondered the possibility of a demon king lurking within the demon tide. He would uncover the truth when the time came. Calling out to Xianxia, she immediately understood his intent and rushed to retrieve his treasured dragon sword from the sword box. With a swift motion, the sword gleamed with golden light, soaring through the air like a dragon breaking free, its brilliance reflecting the determination within Li Hao's heart. As it raced toward the horizon, the people of Kanga City, full of anticipation and excitement, gazed upwards. They had heard of the demon tide, but witnessing it firsthand was another matter, especially with the golden sword slicing through the skies, its aura demanding attention. Meanwhile, the demon horde surged forward, their roar shaking the earth, but the Haoshan battle flags atop the city walls shone brightly. The great demons, sensing a shift in power, hesitated, knowing that these powerful flags could potentially disrupt their plans. As the battle drew closer, both sides prepared for the inevitable clash. But the question remained, would the array's power target only the demons? With the tension rising, both Li Hao and his enemies stood on the brink of an epic confrontation, where strength, will, and legacy would determine the fate of all. Li Hao's calm demeanor hides the intensity of the battle brewing ahead. As the demon tide approaches, he assesses the situation, aware that the true threat may be the hidden demon king within the horde. Calling on Xianxia, he entrusts her with retrieving his sword, the Dragon Sword, from the sacred sword box crafted by the 10,000 Artifacts Tower. The moment the sword is drawn, a shriek of golden light bursts into the sky, slicing through the air with a fearsome roar, drawing the attention of onlookers in Kanga City. As the golden sword races toward the gates, the city brims with anticipation and excitement, not fear, for this battle is not just about survival, it's an opportunity to witness the spectacle of a demon tide firsthand. Meanwhile, the demon horde looms like a dark cloud, and the city walls brace for the oncoming clash. With the Haoshan battle flags planted high, a protective array pulses with energy, ready to shield the city, but will it be enough against the powerful demon kings? With each challenge, Li Hao's strength grows, but so too does the burden of leadership and the toll of war. The battle isn't just about defeating enemies, it's about the cost of protecting humanity and navigating the complex path of power, sacrifice, and survival. The four great demons from the three immortal realms watched with unwavering focus, having foreseen this clash, though they hadn't expected the sheer number of battle flags. First, breach the city. Let the lesser demons destroy the battle flags, then we can retreat. They had prepared their strategy well and, after a brief pause, signaled the charge with their war horns. Instantly, a swarm of demons rushed toward the city, bathed in a golden light. But just as they moved, a mighty dragon's roar echoed from the distance, its piercing sound cutting through the air. The great demons and the city generals turned skyward to witness a golden sword, soaring from within the city like a streak of light passing overhead. "It's the Dragon Sword!" they exclaimed, recognizing the legendary blade that had come to embody immense power since falling into Li Hao's hands. With Li Hao's will guiding the sword, it cleaved through the demonic array without resistance. As the sword's demon soul awakened, its roar shook the land, unleashing a wave of sword chi that surged like a tidal wave. The sword, resembling a golden dragon, carved through the demonic ranks at lightning speed, cutting down demons effortlessly. The air was filled with the sound of destruction as bodies fell, torn apart by the sword's relentless force. The generals on the city walls stood in stunned silence, witnessing a spectacle of raw power. They remembered a time when Li Hao had been in dire straits. But now, the might of the Dragon Sword was undeniable. One sword, one way 50,000 demons were overcome in an instant. Do you like this personality? The demons of the heavenly human realm gathered in vast numbers, yet despite their formidable presence, they were scattered and vulnerable. Their attacks, far from the orderly martial debates of past grandmasters, became chaotic as they attempted to overwhelm the city. From towering heights, the young masters watched in awe, witnessing the unstoppable force of the Dragon Sword Divine Sword as it weaved through the air, cutting down demons with ease. Recognized by all, the sword's power was undeniable, its shape, its name, and its deadly precision. The sight of the sword carving through the demon horde was mesmerizing, like an unstoppable force crashing against a helpless tide. The demons, once confident, fell effortlessly to the might of the Dragon Sword. Meanwhile, Li Hao, keenly observing the movements from within the city, realized that four great demons were among the attackers, hidden beneath layers of deception. Though the demon kings might be further hidden, it mattered little. Li Hao was ready to purge them all. His mind sharp as ever, he engaged in a battle of intellect and power, his moves as calculated as a chess game. But as the battle intensified, the three great demons of the immortal realms revealed their true forms, confronting him with might and fury. However, even their strength faltered in the face of Li Hao's unwavering determination and the unmatched power of the Dragon Sword. The question loomed in the air: could this truly be the young general wielding such a force, or was it merely a shadow of him? But one thing was certain: the demons were no match for what was coming. With a roar of fury, Li Hao unleashed his power, a divine palm crashing forward with demonic might. But even as it collided, he realized the sword chi was far more formidable than anticipated. The wave of energy shattered his attack, piercing his body and inflicting excruciating pain as if 1,000 needles were stabbing through him. Blood spilled, but in his desperation, he attempted to transform, only to find himself suddenly drained of his strength and spirit, as if the Reaper himself had claimed his very essence. His once immense power began to slip away, his divine soul falling into an abyss, struggling to escape but inevitably succumbing to the darkness. His body crumpled, shattered by relentless sword chi, as the Dragon Sword dealt the final blow. The relentless demon tide, though mighty, was no match for the power of the Dragon Sword. In a matter of moments, the battlefield was cleansed of the demon horde, their once unyielding strength now nothing against the might of Li Hao's blade. The tide of destruction rolled over them like a cleansing storm, leaving behind nothing but the eerie silence of a battlefield now under Li Hao's unyielding will. The sword, bathed in golden light, returned to him, descending from the heavens as the people looked on, knowing that the young man who wielded this sword was the one who had brought an end to the oncoming tide, and with it, a glimpse of hope for the world. A sword chi split from the main blade, aiming to strike him down. Did they really believe he was an easy target? With a roar of fury, his palms transformed into divine iron, summoning a powerful demonic aura that manifested into a colossal palm imprint. But as they collided, he realized something was wrong. The sword chi's power was far greater than expected. His demon palm shattered, and the sword chi rained upon him, piercing his body with agonizing pain. His vision blurred as blood spilled from his wounds, and in a desperate cry, he began to transform. However, just before he could complete his change, a sword chi struck, seizing his very soul and strength as if the Grim Reaper himself had claimed them. His life force plummeted, and in a final struggle, his divine soul tumbled like a helpless soul in the abyss. The once mighty demon fell, his body collapsing to the ground with a thunderous thud. The relentless sword chi continued to rain down, reducing him to mere fragments. The Dragon Sword, already having caught up, dealt the final blow to the Immortal Realm Great Demon with a singular slash, shattering him effortlessly despite his unyielding strength. The battle continued, the tide of demons being swept away by the Dragon Sword's immense power. Within moments, all demons, including 4 powerful Immortal Realm Great Demons, were purged. As the battle subsided, the sword's light arced through the air, returning to its rightful place in the young man's courtyard. The onlookers, awestruck, could only gaze upon the divine sword's retreat, understanding that it was Li Hao's unwavering might that had turned the tide. A 15-year-old young man stands at the heart of an empire's hope, his power unmatched. From the echoes of a battle that once shook the world, he has grown stronger. As tension brews across the city, a moment of silence breaks into an overwhelming cheer. On the city walls, soldiers, filled with disbelief, witness the impossible. A single young warrior's strength has swept the demon tide away. The cries for Marshal Haoshin echo through the air as warriors raise their arms in triumph. Among the city's people, the name Haodian spreads like wildfire. Yet, miles away, where the land scorches from an ongoing war, a battlefield lies in ruin, bodies of warriors and demons scattered in every direction. The destruction tells a tale of a brutal clash between the two forces, demon and human each, leaving their mark on the battlefield, a testament to their ferocity and unyielding will to fight. As the demons retreat, the destruction of the Blackstone Great Wall stands as a grim reminder of the cost of war. But amidst the wreckage, a curious simian demon raises a battle flag. Its fluttering motion stirs the winds, and a chase begins. Far beyond, a relentless army of demons surges, their march threatening to engulf the land. The forces of darkness are rising once more, and the young warrior's fate, along with that of humanity, is now inescapably entwined. The tides of battle are far from over, and only those with the strength to rise will survive the coming storm. The vast frontier cities, scattered across 5,000 miles, chose to stand and defend their lands, sacrificing themselves in a heroic last stand against the overwhelming demon tide. As the black waves of demons surged, they wiped out everything in their path, with only a handful of splashes as the city's defensive formations briefly held. However, those formations shattered under the might of the 3 Immortal Realms' great demons, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. The defending forces, though strong, were left with nothing but despair as they watched the cities fall. Yet, Li Xuanli, a determined leader, rallied his troops and prepared for the inevitable clash, knowing the fate of humanity rested on their defense. Despite the intensity of the demon tide, the true challenge lay in the mysterious movements of three demon kings, whose sudden appearance sparked a new level of urgency. The battle was about to escalate, and the future of humanity seemed uncertain as the demons advanced, leaving only desolate, blood-stained earth behind them. This moment marked not just a clash of armies, but a reflection of the relentless struggle between light and darkness, where the will to survive was tested against the rising tide of destruction. The demon tide approaches with relentless force, crashing against the fortified cities that once stood as bastions of hope. As the waves of darkness surge, entire cities are overwhelmed, their defenders' brave souls of the three immortal realms engaged in a desperate struggle. These cities, once thriving, are now submerged in chaos as the Demon Kings breach the defenses with terrifying speed. The land is left ravaged, the earth stained with remnants of fallen soldiers and civilians alike. In the distance, the demon forces, led by monstrous beings, consume everything in their path, driven by an insatiable hunger. Amidst the carnage, a key figure rises. Li Xuanli, leading his forces with unyielding determination. His every command is a call to resist, even as the shadows of the Demon Kings loom ever closer. With a roar that echoes across the battlefield, he urges his forces to activate the protective array, hoping to hold the line just a little longer. But as the tremors of war shake the earth, the question remains, will this last stand be enough to thwart the oncoming storm? Or will the wave of darkness engulf them all? They move through the air with a deadly grace, as if they were simply shifting from one place to another. Having remained hidden and observant, they had refrained from ending Li Xuanli and his forces immediately, waiting for the right moment to strike. Their plan was to lure the enemy deep into the second line of defense, where they could shut down the protective array, creating an opening for a swift and overwhelming attack. Time was their greatest ally. With speed, they could break through the defenses before the enemy could react, and even before reinforcements could arrive. The key to victory was to keep the pressure relentless and fast. In war, being bogged down was the path to defeat. They had learned this through painful experience, such as the war in northern Yan over a decade ago. The three Demon Kings no longer cared about staying hidden. They attacked with all their might, one launching a powerful bone spear at the array. The weapon crashed into the walls, devastating everything in its path. The shockwave reverberated, knocking even the strongest warriors off their feet. As the array barely finished forming, the other two Demon Kings joined in, but their strikes were blocked. Frustration set in as the spear refused to return to its wielder, trapped by the array's defenses. Despite this, they weren't deterred. They would find another way to break through. With the disguise blown, they prepared for a fierce, direct confrontation. A Demon King, seething with rage, charged toward Li Xuanli's forces, promising retribution. Li Xuanli, realizing the inevitable, silently cursed as he prepared for the oncoming battle. His command was simple: form up. The rumble of the army echoed as it swiftly converged into a perfect formation. Its power felt through every synchronized movement. The soldiers, mounted on their steeds, displayed their well-honed skills, a visual testament to their rigorous training. Among the Li family's banners, the Yuan camp was a prized force. But the Swan camp's soldiers were also formidable, skilled in mid to high-grade cultivation techniques, making them nearly unmatched by ordinary heirs of the same rank, unless they were exceptionally talented. As the battle array took shape, a majestic peacock-like phantom emerged, soaring towards the Demon King with a defiant cry. But the Demon Kings, with a cruel sneer, unleashed their wrath, shaking the earth beneath them, their power splitting the ground to halt the advancing soldiers. Meanwhile, within the city walls, the three Immortal Realms commanders swiftly called upon the Heavenly Observatory to repair the array, hoping to restore its diminished power before it faltered completely. As tensions mounted, generals, driven by loyalty and honor, stepped forward to pledge their lives in support of General Li. Each one, from cadet branches of the Li family to orphans saved from demon-ravaged cities, shared a deep bond of gratitude and duty. Amidst the chaos, the two junior generals led a new wave of soldiers into the fray, their battle cry shaking the very heavens. The battlefield became a maelstrom of demonic chi and noble sacrifice as Li Xuanli's soldiers fought fiercely, determined to carve a path through the overwhelming darkness. The red blood horses surged forward, their spirit unbroken as the battle's intensity grew. But with each strike of the Demon Kings, hope seemed ever more fleeting, and the clash of wills between light and dark raged on. In the midst of a battlefield shrouded by darkness and overwhelming demonic forces, Li Xuanli and his daughter, Li Wuxia, find themselves caught in a moment of life and death. As the battle rages on, the soldiers bravely retreat, but not without a final act of sacrifice. Li Xuanli, ever the protector, orders his daughter to escape, giving her the Areto Cannon artifact of immense power, one so rare it could turn the tide of war if captured by the enemy. Despite her deep anguish, Li Wuxia is forced to acknowledge the harsh reality of their situation. In a world where strength is the only true currency, the facade of genius and fame crumbles under the weight of survival. Her heart bleeds as she realizes the stark truth. True power isn't about recognition, but the growth and resilience that only come through hardship and sacrifice. With a heavy heart, she reluctantly follows her father's command, knowing her path is far from over but uncertain if she will ever find peace in the chaos of this war. She was too weak, so weak that any great demon could easily defeat her. Despite her rapid cultivation progress, it still wasn't enough far from it. With her destiny on the line, Li Xuanli made a desperate decision. He exchanged a glance with his ally and signaled the retreat. As chaos erupted, the battlefield split, with Li Wuxia's escape hidden under the guise of his soldiers' retreat. But Li Xuanli knew the cost they would face the Demon Kings head-on to buy her time. With each moment, the odds grew more overwhelming, but Li Xuanli pressed on, his soul burning with the will to protect his people. His fearless challenge to the Demon Kings was met with brutal force. A torrent of bloodlight and lightning whips struck him down, tearing through his defenses, yet he fought back with all his might, determined to hold them off. As the army surrounded him in a protective formation, Li Wuxia's heart broke. Her father, sacrificing himself so that others could survive, was a burden she could neither bear nor ignore. Her only option now was to retreat, but even in that, she felt the weight of the world bearing down on her. The demon's relentless pursuit was more than a physical battle. It was a test of will, survival, and legacy. In a moment of intense tension, Li Wuxia felt a surge of anger, but she quickly suppressed it and lowered her gaze. Suddenly, a powerful shout echoed through the air, followed by several figures charging toward the defensive line. As she looked up, her heart skipped. A beat there stood her master, the revered Taoist, known for his control over mechanism. A glimmer of hope sparked in her eyes as she recognized him, feeling like salvation had arrived. She quickly shared the news with Li Jian, who also couldn't hide his surprise. Alongside the Taoist came two female generals, Li Mushu's sisters, who had not seen battle for decades but were now rushing to his aid without hesitation. Their old armor no longer gleamed as it once did, but their resolve was unshaken. They knew their brother's eccentric nature well. If not for a crisis of immense proportions, he would never have summoned them back into the fray. The sight of these women, once noble and now battle-hardened, added to the weight of the situation. But the true threat lay ahead. The three Demon Kings, each more terrifying than the last. The Taoist's calm demeanor faltered as one of them stepped forward, his dark aura swelling into the shape of a monstrous, twisted dragon. This was no ordinary foe, but a figure of immense power, the Abyss Dragon, an elder from the Dragon Gate, a being of the defying fate realm. The moment his presence was felt, the Taoist's expression darkened, his thoughts heavy with the reality of the coming battle. The other two Demon Kings were no less formidable, with one revealing his insectoid form, while the third gave a cruel laugh, announcing his intention to deal with Li Wuxia. The odds were stacked against them, but the fire of determination burned brighter than ever as each combatant prepared for the inevitable clash. The battle intensified as the Abyss Dragon Demon King unleashed his fury, casting shadows over the battlefield. His roar was like thunder, shaking the earth as he summoned his destructive dragon form, charging with poisonous fume. In a fierce struggle, the Thousand Mechanism Taoist, unshaken and determined, summoned divine seals and golden light, his every strike reverberating with power. But even his might was tested when the Abyss Dragon's scales clashed with his defenses, sending shockwaves through the air. The Taoist was forced to summon his divine whip to restrain the bloodthirsty blood sword, a weapon forged from darkness. Amidst the chaos, the demon forces closed in on Li Xuanli, with the giant spider Demon King descending in its true monstrous form, weaving death with venomous threads. The tension was palpable as the Li family sisters rushed to defend, their every move a testament to their unyielding resolve. However, just as defeat seemed imminent, a burst of golden light cut through the darkness. A holy talisman soared towards Li Xuanli, enveloping him in protection. The struggle was far from over, as the Demon Kings pressed on, and the stakes of this epic battle reached new, heart-stopping heights. This was not just a fight for survival, it was the very soul of humanity at stake. In a battle charged with tension and desperation, a powerful figure, his eyes blazing with fury, sought the end of his foes. However, amidst the chaos, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. A woman, in a desperate bid for survival, activated a Saint Heart talisman, her speed accelerating beyond imagination as she pulled her younger sister along to escape the impending doom. Yet, Even as hope seemed to flicker, the ground before them shattered as a bloodied figure, once a revered Taoist master, fell from the sky, defeated in a blink. The trio's disbelief deepened when the arrival of not one, but two more Demon Kings further shifted the battle's balance. The presence of these ancient beings, their auras suffocating the air, left no room for doubt victory was slipping through their grasp. As the city walls trembled beneath the weight of their power, the forces of darkness seemed invincible. Even a trusted ally, witnessing the fall of such a mighty figure, could hardly comprehend how fate had turned so swiftly. Could the tide truly be this unrelenting? Master had arrived, but even he was defeated. Li Jian, who had been guarding her, was left with nothing but a darkened expression, his eyes devoid of hope. He realized that the second line of defense was already crumbling. With 5 Demon Kings advancing, who could possibly stand against them? The demon horde surged forward like a tidal wave, overwhelming everything in its path. For a brief moment, 3 Demon Kings were held back, but the flood of demons soon caught up. The generals who had stayed behind to intercept the invasion were quickly consumed, only slowing the tide for a brief instant before it surged again. Despair enveloped the city, as both the defenders inside and outside the walls realized their fate. The 5 Demon Kings' presence was like an eclipse, their power silencing all but the most terrified whispers. Armies numbering in the thousands were no match for the Demon Kings, crushed effortlessly like paper. The defense was doomed, and the only hope rested on the Thousand Mechanism Taoist, the last remaining figure of power. Despite his grievous injuries and the exhaustion of his powers, he stood up, grimacing from a wound that nearly claimed his life. Surrounded by the encroaching Demon Kings, he faced an impossible choice: use his last chance at defying fate, though it had already been spent, or succumb. As the Demon Kings encircled him, Monarch Bai mocked him, sensing his desperation. The flood of demons neared the last remnants of the army, threatening to wipe them out completely. But Li Xuanli, filled with rage and defiance, roared his command to the remaining soldiers, urging them to fight to the death. Yet, Monarch Bai's cold response was swift and dismissive, prepared to strike Li Xuanli down first. The battle was reaching its breaking point. In the midst of an ongoing battle, hatred for his adversary, Li Tiangang, ignites a fire of vengeance within him. Just as his hand is raised to strike, a thunderous voice pierces the air commanding him to stop. It's a woman's voice, sharp and clear, reaching across miles to halt the war. His younger sister, stationed at Heavenly Gate Pass, is the one calling out, and in that moment, panic replaces the rage in his heart. He screams for her to stay back, knowing that her arrival will only bring more harm. But even as he cries out, the winds howl, and a shadow streaks across the sky. His sister arrives in a blaze of fury. A war banner, heralding the arrival of a powerful force, crashes into the earth with an impact that shakes the very ground. As the banner unfurls, the word Haoshin becomes visible, causing Monarch Bai and the Demon Kings to pause, their hearts gripped by fear. More banners follow, each one signaling the approach of a formidable army. The demons tremble as they are forced to halt their advance, their once unstoppable march now stifled by the overwhelming presence of the banners. The very air seems to crackle with power as the tides of battle begin to shift. The forces from Tianji Palace were fully aware of the situation outside the Heavenly Gate Pass, and the news had already spread among the higher ranks of the demonic forces. The Dragon Gate in the Holy Palace had even taken Li Hao's battle banner for further study, leading to the death of a great demon from the 3 immortal realms. It was clear that the youth stationed outside the Heavenly Gate Pass was the toughest obstacle for the demonic forces. They had long planned to devour and uproot the region, and the Haoshin flag, planted thousands of miles beyond the pass, had become a symbol of terror among the demons. A great demon, knowing the significance of the banner, warned the others to avoid damaging it at all costs, fearing that a careless move might shatter it. The sudden appearance of the flag and the demon's fearful reaction left Li Xuanli and his group stunned, as they had no idea what was happening. The Thousand Mechanism Taoist, equally confused, observed the banner in awe. It was clear that the demons were terrified of it, something even the Li family's ancestral banner had never achieved. Li Xuanli, recognizing the flag, wondered if Haoer had arrived. In a rush, he looked to the distance, but saw only his younger sister, Li Hongzhuang, who had brought a bundle of banners with her. Li Xuanli urgently asked if Haoer was with her, his voice filled with both anticipation and fearing for Li Hao's safety. Li Hongzhuang, cautious not to speak too loudly in front of the Demon Kings, remained silent. Meanwhile, Monarch Bai kept a close watch, nervously awaiting something, though no one appeared from the direction he was staring at. The battlefield trembled as the tension escalated. A sudden, unexpected outburst froze everyone atop the city walls in disbelief. A mysterious force surged, and voices echoed in shock. What are these Demon Kings doing? Who are they calling out? The sight of a familiar military flag, fluttering boldly in the wind sent ripples of recognition. "It's the battle flag of General Haoshin!" a voice cried. "I've seen it at Heavenly Gate Pass!" The youth from the aristocratic armies marveled, unable to grasp how a mere flag could command such reverence from the very demon kings themselves. The flag, symbolizing a young general, stood as a beacon of power, halting a legion of demons that had breached the frontier. But questions remained. Did this young general truly possess such influence? Meanwhile, within the city's protective barrier, Li Wuxuang paused, her gaze fixed on the flag flapping in the wind, its two characters swirling in the chaos, stirring something deep within her. Despite the momentary detour, the Demon Kings pressed forward, the Abyss Dragon Demon King leading an assault while the others readied their forces. However, the presence of the flag, though intimidating, could only delay the inevitable. The true challenge lay ahead, and as the tension mounted, Li Xuanli and his companions braced themselves. Though the battle flag had brought a brief sense of hope, they knew it was not the flag alone that would determine their fate. The battle for survival had only just begun. The city wall trembled with shock as a powerful cry echoed through the air, startling all who stood there. "What is going on with these Demon Kings?" they whispered in confusion. "Who are they calling out?" The name that rang out sent a chill through their spines: General Haoshin's battle flag. Some of the youth in the aristocratic armies recognized it instantly, their voices rising in disbelief. "That's the flag of General Haoshin!" they exclaimed, recalling his legendary presence at Heavenly Gate Pass. The flag alone seemed to halt the terrifying horde of demons, a force that had already pushed past the frontier pass, chasing relentlessly for 5,000 Li. The mere sight of it shook even the Demon Kings, making them pause and hesitate. Could this young general truly wield such power and influence? Inside the city, Li Wuxuang stood frozen, her gaze locked on the fluttering flag, her thoughts swirling. The sight of those two characters on the flag, swaying in the wind, was a surreal symbol of strength. But even as the demons recoiled in fear, the battle raged on. The Demon Kings, feeling provoked, attacked with ferocity, demanding that the young general show himself or face annihilation. Despite the brief fear the flag instilled, it would be of no use if Li Hao and his ally from the Four Stands realm did not appear. Li Xuanli and his companions could only brace themselves for the storm, knowing that even with the flag's power, the true battle was yet to come. Li Hongzhuang seized the moment to swiftly guide Li Xuanli and her two ants towards the array within the defense line as the Thousand Mechanism Taoist paused to regain his focus. Realizing the power of the sword chi from the flags was enough to rival the full force of a Tao Heart Realm attack, he acknowledged how formidable these weapons truly were. With so many battle flags still in Li Hongzhuang's possession, they stood a chance even against 5 Demon Kings. The Demon Kings pursued them relentlessly, unleashing destructive forces and blocking their path with claws as fierce as dragon. The Thousand Mechanism Taoist struck back fiercely with his 9-section whip, leading the group through the onslaught. As the Demon Kings closed in, Li Hongzhuang summoned more battle flags, the sword chi surging through the air, overwhelming even her own spiritual senses. These sword chi swept across the battlefield with devastating precision, pushing back the Demon Kings. But the giant Spider Demon King, undeterred, cast a web to ensnare them, believing he could withstand the weakening sword chi. Yet, one of the sword chis pierced him, draining his strength as his life force quickly faded. With a final, desperate roar, he realized the truth his power was being consumed, his soul slipping away. Despite his resilience, it was too late to stop the inevitable, and the great Demon King fell into an abyss of shock and dismay. As the battle intensifies, Li Hongzhuang leads her group towards the array within the defense line, moving swiftly. Meanwhile, the Thousand Mechanism Taoist takes a brief moment to regain his composure, recognizing the formidable power of the sword chi emanating from the battle flags. With these flags, even against the overwhelming might of the Demon Kings, they hold the Lenif only for a short time. Suddenly, the Demon Kings spring into action, summoning powerful demonic forces to block their path, the ground itself tearing open with ferocious claws reaching out. With a forceful strike of his 9-section whip, the Thousand Mechanism Taoist clears the way, guiding the group out of the chaos. As they push forward, Li Hongzhuang unleashes several more flags, sending bursts of sword chi slicing through the air, pushing back the Demon Kings in a brilliant display of power. The sword chi shatters into countless shadows, covering their foes, forcing them to retreat. However, the giant Spider Demon King, seeing the array within reach, summons a massive web to trap them. But even as it does so, the sword chi continues to flood its body. Despite its initial confidence that the sword chi would not pose much of a threat, a deep, inexplicable fear takes hold. One final sword chi breaks through, seeping into its core. In a sudden, painful realization, the giant Spider Demon King feels its strength and its life quickly draining away. The power that once defined it now slipping through its grasp. Desperation fills its mind as it struggles to understand what is happening, but in the end, it is too late. The giant spider Demon King fell to the ground with a thud, his divine soul vanishing into nothingness. His death was swift and quiet, leaving the onlookers in disbelief. The Demon Kings, initially prepared to strike, paused in horror as they witnessed the creature's life force dissipate. How could he perish so easily? They wondered. The strange sensation of impending doom lingered in the air, unsettling even the mightiest among them. One by one, they realized the truth. The sword shadows that had swept across the battlefield were more dangerous than they appeared. It wasn't just a matter of physical damage, it was something far more insidious. The Demon Kings, now on high alert, rushed to protect themselves, fearing what they could not yet understand. Meanwhile, Li Hongzhuang and her allies found brief solace within the protective array, only to witness the relentless destruction of their forces outside. The Demon Kings, having learned their lesson, aimed directly for the Xuan troops, eager to test the mysterious power of the military flags. The situation was dire, and yet, in the chaos of war, a sense of quiet determination echoed within the hearts of those who continued to fight. Li Hongzhuang watched as the Demon Kings displayed their cunning, her heart sinking with the weight of the situation. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, she refrained from destroying the military flags, knowing that such an act would severely damage her own forces. As the Demon King swooped into the Xuan camp, chaos erupted, their ruthless onslaught leaving only screams in the wake. The soldiers on the city walls, helpless, could only watch as the Xuan troops were slaughtered with relentless precision. The Demon King's might was unstoppable, their attacks like a mere itch to their enemies, leaving nothing but a sea of corpses behind. Despite the troops' bravery, even the burning of their divine souls couldn't halt the inevitable. On the battlefield, under the fury of the Demon Kings, they were mere shadow. Yet, in the face of such despair, Li Hongzhuang made her stand, detonating the 3 military flags. The sword chi that erupted from them tore through the air, chasing after the Demon Kings with ferocious intent. The Demon Kings recoiled, their faces twisted in disbelief, their demon arts shattered. The might of the sword chi was overwhelming, injuring 2 of them and forcing their retreat. As one of the Demon Kings fled in panic, the remaining ones were left with no choice but to reconsider their strategy. With fear in their hearts, they signaled for reinforcements, their retreat a temporary measure as they waited for the Great Elder's arrival. On the walls, the people dared to breathe a small sigh of relief, but the Demon King's army still loomed, a looming shadow on the horizon. It was now a waiting game, waiting for reinforcements for the next move. The commander of Liangzhou surveyed the distant Demon Kings, then turned his attention to Li Hongzhuang. Had she not arrived with reinforcements in time, the situation would have been dire for Li Xuanli and the Thousand Mechanism Taoist, who were on the brink of perishing, leaving the city exposed to the assault of 5 Demon Kings. The array they had relied on wouldn't last much longer. Li Hongzhuang's heart fluttered at the thought of confronting 5 Demon Kings. But with the war banner from Li Hao, she knew they had a fighting chance. Yet, a concern lingered. How was Heavenly Gate Pass holding up in her absence? Glancing at the war banners lining the city walls, a slight sense of relief washed over her. Li Qingling, curious, asked about the origin of the banner, and Li Hongzhuang explained that it belonged to Li Hao, the son of Tiangang. The realization stunned everyone, especially Li Qingling and Li Shuiyun, who had heard of Li Hao's extraordinary talents. A youth, only 15 years old, was already making waves in the realm. The commander of Liangzhou, who had once doubted the Li family's decision to place such a young general at the helm, now found himself indebted to this very boy who had saved them all. Li Wushuang, lost in thought, wondered why. Despite her best efforts, she seemed to be drifting away from her cousin. Li Qingling, astonished by the banner's sheer presence and the power they conveyed, couldn't help but acknowledge the bright future ahead of Li Hao, whose fame surpassed even Li Junye's. The sorrow of his death still lingered, but in his place, a new beacon of hope had emerged. Shining even brighter, a scout suddenly burst in, delivering urgent news. Distress signal from the east! The commander of Liangzhou, Li Xuanli, who had been staring at the siege outside, snapped to attention. His body, still healing from his wounds, braced itself as he rose. The enemy's power was undeniable. 5 Demon Kings were already in the midst of their assault, and now it seemed the eastern region, protected by a powerful ally, was under threat as well. Li Xuanli's concern deepened as he feared the worst. Could it be the 7th brother? A tense atmosphere hung in the air as plans to reinforce the eastern front began to form. Li Hongzhuang, with a solemn expression, took charge, preparing to use her formidable battle flags to defend against the Demon Kings, knowing the danger they posed. As she flew into the air, others hesitated, recognizing the grim reality of their position. Without the power of the Demon Kings themselves, the battlefield would be unforgiving. On the eastern plains, the soldiers retreated under heavy pressure, 100,000 strong, their numbers diminishing in the face of the relentless Demon King's pursuit. The demon tide was closing in, and the fate of the region rested on the fragile hope of reinforcements and battle strategies. The stage was set for an epic confrontation where not only strength but willpower would determine survival. In this chapter, the battle reaches its peak as Li Tiangang, bloodied and exhausted, fights to protect his comrades and lead them to safety. With his injuries slowing his recovery, he pushes forward with sheer determination, buying time for the retreating army. Despite his efforts, sacrifices are inevitable, and the enemy's relentless assault on the border makes every step harder. As Li Tiangang races toward the second line of defense, the loss of a 10,000-man legion highlights the overwhelming power of the Demon Kings. The scene is haunting amidst the destruction. The sun sets with a blood-red glow, symbolizing the fading hope of victory. With every step, the weight of the battlefield and the endless pursuit of survival becomes heavier, leaving Li Tiangang wondering if he will make it to safety in time. Li Tiangang stood at the precipice, his eyes filled with a longing sadness, staring beyond the horizon. Having fought countless battles and faced innumerable demons, was this his twilight? His final stand? Memories of his family, his father, brothers, and the woman he cherished flashed before him, but his heart ached knowing he would never reach the Four Stances Peak realm or see her again. Despite the looming threat of death, a quiet peace settled within him, for he knew that those he loved awaited on the other side. But his heart was heavy with regret, for there was still a legacy to guide and a future uncertain, especially with the young, stubborn successor he had hoped to mentor. Yet time had run out, and the overwhelming forces of the Demon Kings closed in. His thoughts raced to the lives of the soldiers depending on him. With a deep breath, he made his decision. Li Tiangang, knowing the grim reality of their situation, chose to stay behind. His beloved steed, understanding his fate, refused to leave him. A soft smile broke through his somber face as he encouraged the army to press on. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a sacrifice for the future. His choice was set, and the battle ahead would be a defining moment of both strength and loss. Li Hongzhuang stepped forward, her protective instincts kicking in as she shielded Li Tiangang, her expression hardening at the sight of the 6 Demon Kings. Though armed with the battle flags of her family, she couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty. The situation at Seventh Brother's front seemed more perilous than she had anticipated. "Why did you come? Leave now!" Li Tiangang barked in anger. "We'll leave together!" Li Hongzhuang quickly responded, her resolve clear. "Then no one will escape!" Li Tiangang's voice cracked with fury. He understood her intent, but knew this wasn't the time for sentiment. "It's okay! With Howard's battle flag, we can still escape!" she urged, desperate to keep hope alive. At that moment, Li Tiangang froze, his gaze drawn to the flag unfurling before them, its inscription gleaming with the powerful mark of Haoshan. "He's here too?" he muttered, confusion and disbelief sweeping over him. Li Hongzhuang, her tone low, whispered, "Hao Air is holding his ground at Heavenly Gate Pass. He's entrusted his flag to aid us." Li Tiangang's eyes narrowed as frustration overtook him. "What good is a battle flag?" he snapped, irritated by the situation. Despite the tension, he realized the young Li Hao didn't fully grasp military strategy, but his strength was undeniable. As the 6 Demon Kings paused in their advance, the air thick with tension, Li Hongzhuang noticed the seriousness in their eyes, understanding they had caught wind of Li Hao's growing legend. What had Li Hao done to provoke such caution from these formidable foes? Li Hongzhuang quickly stepped in front of Li Tiangang, shielding him from the looming threat of 6 powerful Demon Kings. Her battle flags fluttered ominously, but despite her confidence, doubt flickered in her eyes as she realized the true scale of danger Seventh Brother faced. Li Tiangang, frustrated and furious, demanded they leave, but Li Hongzhuang stood firm, assuring him they could escape with the protection of Hao's battle flag. Confused, Li Tiangang glanced at the flag, seeing the emblem of Haoshan, and his anger turned to disbelief. He had thought Li Hao remained behind at Heavenly Gate Pass, not expecting him to be so involved in the fight. Yet, despite the flag's protection, the situation only grew more perilous. The Demon Kings paused, clearly aware of the threat Li Hao posed, hinting that his reputation had spread far and wide. In the midst of the chaos, the question hung in the air: what exactly had Li Hao done to stir such fear in the hearts of these formidable demons? As the tension escalated, it became clear that this was not just a battle of strength, but a battle of legacy and fate. Curiosity swelled within Li Hongzhuang, but she could not ask Li Hao directly. She seized the moment and quickly ordered Li Tiangang to retreat with her. As the Demon Kings closed in, she triggered 2 battle flags, sending sword energy streaking toward their foes. Li Tiangang, still reeling from the surprise, realized the sword energy came from the flags, a tactic beyond what he had imagined. Li Hongzhuang explained that the flags held a sword array, a power comparable to the Dao Heart Realm, something he hadn't believed possible from such small flags. It dawned on him that these battle flags were imbued with a secret technique, possibly even influenced by the Emperor's favor toward Li Hao. This realization left him reflecting on Li Hao's growing importance and the Emperor's support, which seemed to grant him more power than he had first thought. After the battle, Li Tiangang contemplated his future role, deciding that as long as Li Hao remained steadfast, he would not interfere further. With a thunderous roar, the battlefield erupts as the 6 Demon Kings reveal their terrifying true forms, unleashing the full force of their ancient power. The air vibrates with an overwhelming aura, a true test for those who dare stand against them. As the clash intensifies, sword chi bursts forth, only to be shattered by the unstoppable might of the Vine Demon Elder, whose Vine Spear tears through the void with unyielding force. Despite the power of the sword arrays, even those honed to perfection falter in the face of such might. Amidst the chaos, Li Hongzhuang calls upon her battle banners, summoning waves of red gold sword chi that cleave through the air, challenging the Demon Kings. Yet, even as they struggle to resist, the Vine Demon Elder, driven by an unrelenting rage, pursues them with murderous intent, undeterred by the onslaught of swords. With each swing of his Vine Spear, he shatters the sword chi, relentlessly closing in on his prey, the very air alive with tension. As the forces collide, both sides are caught in a relentless struggle, their fates intertwined by the relentless power that surges between them, setting the stage for an epic showdown where every move could determine the future of the realm. Li Hongzhuang unleashed a series of military banners, and in an instant, the sword arrays erupted, shredding the Vine Demon Elder in relentless fury. The Elder retaliated, casting a dark, withered vine imbued with thunderfire that tore through the sword chi, but the tiny sword chi continued to strike from all sides, causing minimal damage but overwhelming him in sheer numbers. Dismissing the attacks at first, the Elder was suddenly overcome with a chilling premonition of death. His body trembled. As his life force rapidly drained, his divine soul locked in place, unable to escape. In a panic, he summoned his true form of pitch-black Thunderfire Vini, and with it, he broke free from the grasp of fate, narrowly avoiding death. The sight of his own form dying left him shaken. He had lived for millennia, but this moment made him feel as though he were staring into the abyss itself. The Demon Kings, who had been in pursuit, were equally stunned by this strange event. Li Hongzhuang, recalling the time when Sword Chi from her battle banners had already defeated a Demon King, shared their astonishment, realizing that the power of the battle banners was far greater than they had ever imagined. In this intense moment, the battle takes a surprising turn. The shattered Sword Chi may not seem immediately dangerous, but it harbors a hidden force, an unseen strike, leaving everyone stunned. Even Li Tiangang, the seasoned warrior, couldn't comprehend why a powerful being like the Vine Demon Elder, who stood in the defying fate realm, would squander his life for such an uncertain move. As the siblings race to catch up with the main army, their urgency is clear. Together, they approach the array at the city's head, where their comrades wait. Li Hongzhuang and the others have already prepared the defense, blocking the Demon Kings with their war banners and ensuring no immediate pursuit. The gates close behind them, sealing off the threat. With their enemies at bay, the focus shifts to the survival of the defense, the stakes higher than ever before. The soldiers, united by their bond and resilience, press forward, knowing the dangers that lie ahead. The tension rises as the siblings brace for the next wave of Demon Kings, each battle flag still holding a sliver of hope, but how long can they hold their ground before the tide overwhelms them? Amidst the looming threat of war, a mysterious force called the War Flags emerges, their power capable of reshaping the fate of the city. The Li family, grappling with secrets and unspoken burdens, faces an ominous challenge as the fate of Liangzhou hangs in the balance. As Li Hao carefully maneuvers through the treacherous tides of politics and war, his mastery over the Haoshan battle flags becomes a beacon of hope, but even his strength is tested as the Demon Kings grow in power. While his family debates the number and significance of the flags, Li Hao remains calm, knowing his duty lies not in their numbers, but in the strength of his spirit and the protection of his people. As the final pieces fall into place, the game of power continues, and those who dare question their destiny must face not just enemies, but the haunting question of legacy. With his every move watched and every secret weighed, Li Hao stands tall, knowing that the true battle is one of both inner and outer strength. As the sun sets over the distant horizon, the peaceful quietude of the moment is shattered by the growing weight of impending danger. Li Hao, aware of the mounting tension and pressure, tells Zhu Zuyuan, his trusted companion, to rest, as the constant flow of military updates had kept him distracted from his true focus chess. The game, a reflection of life itself, is about the heart. Without a heart in the play, there is no victory. Li Hao's words carry the wisdom of an elder, though his youthful face betrays his calm authority. Shu Zhuyuan, touched by the young general's concern, hesitates but finally agrees to stay for his own safety. With a soft sigh, Li Hao watches as his chess opponent departs, the glow of the setting sun casting an ethereal light over the small courtyard. His thoughts, however, remain far from the serenity of the moment. As he moves toward his next task, a flicker of urgency catches his attention. A notification signals a drastic loss of strategic ground on the battlefield, more than 10 war flags destroyed in quick succession. His heart quickens as he realizes his fears may be true. The situation on the Western Front is worsening, and his ally, Li Hongzhuang, is already engaged in the thick of it. The tension of war, coupled with his internal conflict, sets the stage for an epic confrontation. Yet, despite the chaos, Li Hao remains poised, prepared to navigate the storm that looms on the horizon. Will he be able to hold back the tide of darkness, or will the weight of responsibility overwhelm him? Only time will tell in this thrilling saga of resilience and strategy. Li Hao's thoughts were drawn to the crumbling war flags and the quiet stillness beyond the border. With no new demon threat looming, he considered stepping in personally. Just then, his shadow clone returned, its arms laden with war flags, signaling a shift in strategy. Realizing the gravity of the situation in Lianzhou, Li Hao ordered his shadow clone to gather all battle flags within 5,000 miles and replace them with ordinary ones. These flags, once meant to intimidate the demons, now served as a more potent tool on the battlefield. As the demons retreated, he would have time to patrol and reinforce the defenses. In a flash, Li Hao vanished from his courtyard and appeared at the mountain's peak, miles from the city. His companion, Feng Boping, trailed behind, curious about his next move. Li Hao smiled, his response cryptic, "Cultivating." He stood tall, preparing to refine his body and mind using the cultivation techniques he'd collected. As his energy flowed, meridians opened within him, one after another. The process was seamless, his experience guiding him through the ancient art of meridian opening. Soon, all 108 major meridians flowed freely, and a surge of energy coursed through him, sending waves of satisfaction rippling through his body. With the last meridian unblocked, the sensation was overwhelming, like being massaged by unseen hands, leaving him feeling powerful, renewed. But deeper, something stirred a potential waiting to be unlocked. In this quiet moment of personal growth, Li Hao stood poised, ready for whatever the future might bring. Li Hao's journey unfolds with an intense surge of power that propels him beyond ordinary boundaries. As he opens his eyes, a golden light materializes, drawing him into an otherworldly realm. His body feels light, as if it no longer belongs to the earth, and starlight dances toward him, merging with his being. A profound transformation occurs, as his meridians fuse into a singular entity, connecting heaven and earth. This new heaven and earth vein allows him to control the power of heaven and earth, amplifying his strength beyond measure. Li Hao's gaze now reflects a vast, celestial presence, as if he has transcended human limitations. This power, once dormant, now radiates through him like a storm. With this newfound mastery, he realizes his potential has reached the pinnacle of the Zhoutian realm, offering him a deeper understanding of what lies ahead. His inner calm contrasts with the immense chaos of the battle as he prepares to face the formidable forces of the Demon Kings. A journey of immense physical and spiritual growth, Li Hao stands as the last line of defense, balancing his power with the heavy weight of leadership and embracing the mysteries of his destiny. The heaven and earth vein served as a vessel, an ethereal bowl that now contained the immense immortal chi, channeling the power of heaven and earth. In the past, Li Hao could only hold this power within his physical form, but this limited him, as when he reached the threshold, he would transition into an immortal. Any attempt to exceed 30% transformation required external help to stop it. But with the vein, Li Hao's capacity expanded exponentially, enabling him to hold far more power and reach new limits. No longer constrained to 30%, his transformation could now exceed 40, 50, or even 60%. He mused about the possibility of cultivating all realms to their limits and what true immortality might look like. Could it even still be called martial arts? As he reveled in his enhanced connection to the external world, the vein granted him greater control and endurance. The power he could now wield was immense, enabling him to perform more advanced techniques and even absorb the surrounding energy to continually refine his body. This constant refinement strengthened the immortal realms within him, bolstering his self-healing and the durability of his treasure body. His already formidable body, previously refined beyond ordinary measures, was now capable of confronting even the Demon King, and he could refine it further. What would happen if he reached the limits of the three immortal realms? As Li Hao stood on a mountain peak, he began his training, feeling the energy of heaven and earth flow through him. With each breath, he absorbed more power, refining his body and spirit, growing ever stronger. As Li Hao continued his cultivation, His body began to radiate an ominous glow, surrounded by lightning and fire, a sure sign of a body being honed to an unimaginable degree of power. Feng Boping, watching from afar, was unable to tear his eyes away from the spectacle, his heart racing with shock and awe. Li Hao had shattered expectations time and time again. And now, Feng Boping couldn't shake the feeling that this young man would surpass all others in history, perhaps even the mightiest beings in the land. The raw intensity of Li Hao's body refinement was unlike anything Feng had witnessed before, his body resonating with the power of hundreds of true dragons, making him believe that even legendary weapons like the Dragon Sword might not be enough to pierce his flesh. As Li Hao carefully refined his strength, the surrounding environment seemed to respond with the power of thunder and flame, an awe-inspiring display of his dominance. Yet, he knew that sometimes his power, like the deadly attributes of his yellow sparrow diagram, could unintentionally unleash devastating force, which is why he kept such power in check in everyday life. With the world around him growing quiet, time seemed to pass as Li Hao continued his solitary training, mastering his techniques under the guidance of the forces of nature. Then, in a distant corner of the land, a mysterious encounter unfolded. An enigmatic bird demon, disguised as a delicate girl, stood waiting for a message to be delivered to a powerful figure, setting the stage for new challenges on the horizon. A young girl, with a respectful demeanor, relays a critical message to Lu Yuan. She informs him that the East-West territory has fallen, but a second line of defense has been established in Liangzhou, with noble families rushing to gather there. The 8 Directions Order has been issued by Li Tiangang, calling for reinforcements, including elders from the Divine General Mansion. The Daiyu royal family and Mount Wuliang have mobilized their forces, including a bodhisattva. However, the movements of the Gantao Palace are unclear. The situation on the battlefield is dire, with a stalemate at the second defensive line where a powerful battle banner has been summoned, containing a deadly sword array capable of defeating even the strongest warriors. Lu Yuan, intrigued and eager to face this once-in-a-millennium genius, plans to confront him. The girl's quiet compliance reflects her role as a mere messenger, not daring to offer an opinion. Lu Yuan, with his 1,000 years of experience, intends to crush the young genius, dismissing him as nothing more than a fleeting threat. The tension grows as Lu Yuan's approach promises an explosive turn in the battle, but the true strength of the young hero remains to be seen. Lu Yuan hurried forward, reaching the ancient Dragon Pass Road, an old path forged by the ancestors of the Li family. Though the road had once been a symbol of great significance, now it stood abandoned, save for a forgotten tea house. As he continued onward, the dawn broke over Xianxia City, signaling the return of life to the bustling streets where shopkeepers began their day. Yet, as Lu Yuan observed the scene, his eyes narrowed on the sight of the city's walls adorned with battle banners, familiar and unsettling. He knew something was amiss and, with a sneer, dismissed the idea that such banners could hold any real power. He struck the city walls with a force that rattled the very foundations, setting off alarms as the city-protecting formation activated. The city erupted into chaos. But Lu Yuan remained unfazed, ready to crush any resistance. As he prepared for his next strike, a sharp cry split the air, a sword cleaving through the atmosphere towards him. Lu Yuan, with an unshaken resolve, met the attack head-on, grasping the sword's edge without hesitation. The tension builds, hinting at an upcoming clash that will shake the foundations of this world. The battle intensifies as Lu Yuan faces an overwhelming force from the True Dragon Sword Soul and the demon souls of the Blackbird Demon King and the 10,000 Caverns Ghost Mother. The power from these beings, once enslaved, now fiercely defends the divine weapon, with each demon soul manifesting a unique and deadly force. Lu Yuan, undeterred, breaks through their attacks with astonishing power, using his dragon-like might and overwhelming fists to shatter the shadows and storm forward. His determination is clear as he declares his intention to free the True Dragon's Sword Soul, ending its bond with humanity. However, just as he nears victory, a mysterious figure emerges from the void, calm yet powerful. This young figure carries an aura that shakes Lu Yuan, a being beyond ordinary, with strength that places him in the 3 immortal realms of being that could very well be the reincarnation of a mighty demon king. Their clash is inevitable, setting the stage for an epic confrontation between 2 forces of unimaginable power. Li Hao faces the terrifying power of Lu Yuan, a demon king who embodies the true essence of the ultimate study realm. Despite the overwhelming strength Lu Yuan possesses, Li Hao remains composed, fully aware that this battle will test him beyond measure. As Lu Yuan mocks his opponent's bravery, the tension mounts. With his dragon sword in hand, Li Hao summons a force of his own that rivals the deepest darkness. Just as Lu Yuan exerts pressure, attempting to crush the sword, Li Hao's control over the weapon transforms the battle. The sword shakes with newfound life, slashing through the demon's defenses and unleashing the dormant power of the true dragon sword soul. In this pivotal moment, the clash between the realms becomes more than a mere physical battle. It's a testament to Li Hao's growing strength and his unyielding spirit. Though the path ahead is fraught with danger, Li Hao's mastery over his sword and his inner strength shine brighter than ever. The war is far from over, but one thing is certain. Li Hao is no longer just a boy. He is a force to be reckoned with. With a glance at the cracked scale in his palm, his eyes darken as an icy, murderous intent rises within him. The realization hit his opponent had been hiding his true strength all along. How dare he conceal his abilities in front of him? Coldly, Lu Yuan acknowledges. "Seems you're more formidable than I thought." Li Hao responds without hesitation. "You talk too much." With a swift motion, he summons the dragon sword, its speed vastly enhanced as it cuts through the air, tearing apart the sky and pulling the clouds in its wake. Lu Yuan counters with a lightning strike from his palm, sending thunderbolts to intercept the sword, but Dragon Sword vibrates fiercely, pushing Lu Yuan's palm away and cutting into his chest. However, Lu Yuan's dragon scales emerge under his skin, and though unharmed, his rage intensifies. With the air crackling with purple lightning, Lu Yuan unleashes a devastating series of attacks, each palm strike creating thunderous explosions. The clash between Dragon Sword's sword light and Lu Yuan's palms creates an overwhelming force, causing the very heavens to shake and the ground to crack beneath them. Onlookers watch in awe as Li Hao stands unfazed, revealing his true power against the fearsome Demon King. The battle rages on, with both combatants pushing their limits. Just when it seems like the sword might be defeated, Lu Yuan's transformation into a half-demon form only escalates the stakes. The tension builds, and with every strike, the war for survival inches closer to its climactic end. With the dragon sword looming for another strike, he steadied his breath, releasing all restraint and invoking his peerless technique, intent on swiftly ending his opponent and quelling his rage by wreaking havoc upon the city. His claws raised high, the sky darkened as storm clouds gathered, and a violent gale surged, the air thick with tension. The faint rumble of thunder echoed through the heavens. Limitless Thunder Tao! His eyes became cold, and with a commanding gesture, he pulled bolts of lightning from the clouds, shaping them into a thunderous sword. The lightning exploded under his control, crashing toward Li Hao. In response, Li Hao's gaze sharpened as his dragon sword surged with immense power, releasing a barrage of sword chi in a delicate yet swift rain, a technique he had forged through intense cultivation. Sword Extreme of the Ages began. The first form, Spring Rain, unleashed. The sword chi not only had immense killing potential, but also an extraordinary penetration power, far surpassing his previous moves. Yet, as the lightning struck, it shattered his sword chi and surged forward, racing along the disrupted energy, threatening to overwhelm him. Li Hao's eyes widened. Was this the might of the ultimate study realm? His own technique seemed to falter in comparison to his opponent's sheer might. Without hesitation, he transformed, his sword flaring like the sun, smashing into the lightning with a resounding clap. The light exploded in a blaze, but his sword fell short, the thunderous energy overpowering him, accompanied by a cry from within the dragon sword. Die! Lu Yuan's icy gaze locked on him, confident in the invincibility of his limitless Thunder Dao. But then, out of nowhere, a figure moved swiftly, striking at his spine. Surprised, Lu Yuan roared in fury, realizing that someone from the Four Stands realm had been shielding Li Hao. His strength surged, but when the strike met his spine, it halted as if striking divine iron. Li Hao's previous failure to pierce his defense made sense. Now no weapon, even one forged with divine power, could breach it. In a flash, a claw descended with terrifying force. Feng Boping, caught off guard, tried to retreat, but the lightning transmitted through him, seizing his body and flung him backward. The battle raged on, with power and skill clashing in a deadly dance, and both sides facing unimaginable forces. Li Hao's fierce struggle continues as he faces an overwhelming force in the battle of his life. With the heavens themselves crashing down upon him in the form of deadly lightning and devastating power, Li Hao stands resolute, enveloped by a whirlwind of energy. Even when faced with the immovable Ming King's powerful phantom, his will remains unbroken. Despite the immense pressure, his body, though scorched and wounded, quickly heals with incredible resilience. His opponent, Lu Yuan, throws lightning strikes with divine force, but Li Hao's determination to protect what he loves fuels him further. The storm of battle rages on as the two clash, their energies colliding with a force that shakes the very air around them. Li Hao's body transforms, his power amplifying through the supreme skills he has honed over time, allowing him to draw the power of heaven and earth itself. His strikes now carry the might of 100,000 tons, capable of shaking mountains. The fight is no longer just physical, but spiritual. as Li Hao's evolution is tested by both the force of his enemies and the weight of the responsibility he carries. Every moment, every move is a testament to his growth, not just as a warrior, but as a symbol of hope for all who face the tide of darkness. With a thunderous crash, the ground trembled, as lightning crackled from Lu Yuan's palm, leaving his hand numb, scales bleeding. His eyes widened in disbelief. How could this young warrior wield such overwhelming power? A true dragon, with centuries of cultivation and unparalleled strength, yet Li Hao, with his lesser experience, was pushing him back. Enraged, Lu Yuan unleashed his true form, becoming a colossal, purple-black dragon soaring through the sky, harnessing the fury of thunder. But Li Hao, undeterred, activated his divine power, his body glowing with radiant golden energy, amplifying his strength and endurance to unthinkable levels. The clash that followed was earth-shattering. Thunder and lightning raged as Li Hao, seemingly impervious to the storm's fury, roared, unleashing his might with an explosive strike that echoed across the battlefield. Despite the blistering lightning lacerating his flesh, his body healed with unnatural speed, his form becoming a living embodiment of indestructibility. Lu Yuan, maddened by the resilience before him, could hardly fathom how a mere mortal could possess such a divine physique. Li Hao, now transformed, his power, exponentially grown, felt invincible, facing his greatest test with the unwavering determination of a true warrior, ready to confront the might of the dragon. As the battle raged on, it became clear that this was no longer a fight for victory, but a test of willpower, strength, and the transformation of one's spirit. With a roar, he unleashed his ultimate technique, the destruction of the Tao of Thunder, a devastating move from the limitless Thunder Tao. His body, hundreds of meters long, crackled with lightning, surging from tail to head, where concentrated power erupted in a cataclysmic burst. The intensity of the lightning was so overwhelming that even before it reached Li Hao, he could feel his skin tear, his heart pounding as golden blood surged, boiling within him. Reacting instinctively, his body entered an immortal state, tapping into the vast energies of heaven and earth. In an instant, the raw power surged within him like an untamed beast, pushing his strength to new heights. His eyes gleamed with unmatched intensity as he roared, declaring his invincibility. With a single step, he launched a mighty punch, gathering the forces of the world, smashing through the lightning in a clash that shook the heavens themselves. The ground trembled, the storm clouds parted, and the sky cleared, revealing the dawn's light. His adversary, weakened and bloodied from the residual impact, was struck by terror as Li Hao closed in, his aura now transcendent. As the fear of his opponent reached its peak, a desperate cry escaped. "You're not from here?" The question revealed a forgotten truth, a deep fear that threatened to expose Li Hao's secret. But the young warrior, undeterred, simply responded with a crushing punch, sealing his enemy's fate as the pursuit continued, relentless and unstoppable. The moment Li Hao broke through the opponent's peerless technique, the shock on his enemy's face was palpable. His strongest move shattered effortlessly, and yet the young man remained unfazed, leaving only a trace of terror in his wake. Was this the legendary 3 immortal realms? It felt unreal, as though the very ground beneath his feet trembled with the weight of the memories haunting him. The instinct to flee was overwhelming. "Think you can escape?" Li Hao's voice echoed ominously. There was no retreat for the old dragon. No, we knew too well that such a creature could not be allowed to roam freely. As the dragon fled, Li Hao's figure vanished like a shadow, pursuing with a relentless speed that seemed to defy nature itself. The chase was a blur Li Hao, drawing on the power of heaven and earth, pressed on, undeterred by the dragon's desperate efforts to escape, using a sacred talisman to enhance his speed. But Li Hao was determined. His pursuit wasn't just to win it, was to eradicate the last trace of the creature that dared to challenge him. The power within him surged as he followed the demonic aura, fully prepared to destroy this threat once and for all, securing the safety of all he held dear. Li Hao could wield his power without restraint, his pursuit relentless and unyielding. In the blink of an eye, he followed the demon Qi, chasing it over thousands of miles, crossing cities, mountains, and rivers. With the distance narrowing, Li Hao's eyes locked on his target, a once mighty dragon. Furious and cornered, the dragon, Lu Yuan, roared in frustration, realizing he couldn't outrun the young warrior anymore. "How long will this chase go on?" he snarled. Yet, despite his anger, Lu Yuan couldn't stop. He had to keep moving toward the front line, where he hoped to team up with Miss Yin to confront a greater foe. Li Hao taunted him mercilessly, mocking the Dragon Clan's tendency to flee, provoking the dragon even more. Enraged, Lu Yuan's mind began to snap, humiliated by the taunts, but there was no turning back now. Li Hao's punch struck with the force of a thunderclap, sending Lu Yuan tumbling helplessly through the air. Despite the sting, Lu Yuan's escape continued, using talismans to propel himself further, but the relentless pursuit only grew closer. Finally, the sounds of battle reached his Irsan army of demons, encircling a human stronghold. It was clear the battle was far from over, but Lu Yuan could only wonder, where was Miss Yin? His fate and that of the realm hung in the balance as the tide of war surged. Lu Yuan's frustration boiled over as he watched the Great Void Realm warrior struggle. Despite the agreement to have him lead the way, it was clear the warrior had run into the most vexing opponent in Liangzhou. Not only had the warrior failed to overcome this challenge, but seeing such incompetence from a supposedly powerful being sent Lu Yuan into a fury. Just as he was about to unleash his anger, he heard the approaching sounds of Li Hao, the human chasing him down. Enraged, Lu Yuan called out to the demon army, commanding them to come and deal with the threat. His thunderous roar echoed across the plains, alarming both the demons and the defenders on the walls. As Lu Yuan sped towards the demon forces, his tattered form scales missing, flesh bloodied and dirtied surprised those who witnessed it. Demon kings and others who had seen his mighty form before were left in disbelief. How could the ultimate study realm warrior be reduced to such a state? As the shadow behind him grew closer, a familiar figure emerged, and the realization hit Li Hao that fierce young man was the one chasing him. The shock was palpable, especially when even the Demon King saw that Lu Yuan was running, not charging. Meanwhile, back at the city walls, the Li family members stared in astonishment as the roar reached them, recognizing the Demon King's figure. Even Li Tiangang, with his vast knowledge of the Li family's legacy, was stunned. The game had just changed, and the battle ahead would test every warrior's limits. The Demon King of the Ultimate Study Realm has arrived, and it is none other than Lu Yuan. Li Tiangang, taken aback by this revelation, recalls the earlier encounter of Miss Yin from the Great Void Realm, making this meeting feel less surprising. However, the tension escalates when a shadowy figure appears behind Lu Yuan, catching both Li Tiangang and Li Xuanli off guard. As they focus their attention, they quickly realize the figure is none other than Hao, sending both of them into a state of shock and disbelief. The mysterious presence of Hao adds a new layer of intrigue to the unfolding drama, setting the stage for even greater revelations.